the Raptors right now are on a hot streak. Well, they're not on a hot streak because they just lost to the Cleveland Cavaliers.
Good game.
And how fitting, right? How fitting that we make a video about our top 5 rookies. A week later, they face off, Scotty versus Mobley. And Mobley, at least on the stat sheet, outplayed Scotty because I think Scotty outplayed Evan Mobley. Watching the game, I thought his impact was much greater. But to each their own, everybody has a difference of opinion. But the Raptors, they have been really good. They are 6-4 right now. They could have beat Cleveland. It was a 1-point loss. If Scotty had maybe put a little bit more into the ball, he would have got that tip in.
Cleveland had the lead for 5 seconds of the game. The
Yeah.
entire game, and it was the last 5
Almost
seconds.
wire to wire.
Insane.
The Raptors have the 8th best defensive rating this season and hold opponents to the 5th fewest points in the league right now. And I saw a glimpse of that when I was watching the Raptors and Knicks game. I mean, not only did Gary Trent and OG go off offensively, but defensively they are everywhere because they have so much length. It feels like you don't have a slither of open space. They get after it, but we know this from Nick Nurse coach teams. They are like this. But what do you make of the Raptors' hot start? Why do you think they have been rolling so much? And Siakam is coming back against the Nets on a minutes restriction. So what do you think they'll be once Siakam comes back? I'll start with you, Drew.
So the Raptors have looked very good, and the biggest part of their game that we were all high on was going to be their defense. That addition to Scotty Barnes, what I have been most impressed is that Scotty's been able to have as much impact offensively as he's had, because that was the biggest question mark about his game coming into the season. What was his impact going to be on the scoring/offensive side of the ball? And he's put that to bed. I think he's averaging around like 18 points is spectacular. Last night he was a little bit inefficient, or what was it, 2 nights ago? Last night, regardless. He was a little bit inefficient, but he still is active. Defensively, he is as advertised. He's an excellent defender. You look at what Federico's been doing. You look at the impact that OG Anunoby has had on this team and the leap that he's taken this year, averaging over 20 points this season. He's been amazing. I just think in terms of their hot streak, let's look at this 5-game win streak. Indiana, Orlando, Indiana, New York, Washington. I'll give them the respect. Washington has been playing okay, so that Toronto win was valid. That game against the Knicks are obviously a primetime team in this league. That's valid.
Obviously.
Indiana, Orlando, Indiana. As much as I like Indiana, Indiana hasn't been off to the greatest of starts recently. And obviously Orlando is arguably the worst team in the East, given the fact that they still do play hard. Pistons are up there, truthfully, even though they've been
Pistons are worse than Orlando.
They've been very disappointing. But I'm not looking too deep into their schedule because defensively they have been excellent. I think they've let up 100 points, twice? 1, 2, 3. They've given up 100 points, but just over 100 points. They haven't given up anything egregious like 120, 115. The most they've given up this season is 109 points, and that was to Orlando, which is ironically one of the worst teams in the league. So I got to give them their respect. And once Pascal Siakam comes, that's just another addition to their team offensively, scoring-wise, that I wouldn't say they desperately need, but it's one of those things that definitely could be more beneficial. The only person averaging over 20 points for them is OG Anunoby right now, but you still have Fred VanVleet averaging just under 19 points. You have Scotty Barnes averaging just under 18 points. Gary Trent Jr., who has been a pest defensively, I think he's averaging over 2 steals a game. He's averaging actually 3 steals a game. He's been very active with his hands. He's been stellar defensively. That trade for Norman Powell, the Blazers must be kicking themselves for that because Gary Trent really has just been excellent.
I don't know. Norman Powell has been really good for them, too.
He's been solid, but defensively, Gary Trent, I just think...
I think Norman Powell's better defensively.
Norman Powell's a really good defender.
I think he's better.
He is a solid defender, but in terms of giving you extra possessions, the speed, the athleticism, his ability to shoot the basketball, Norman Powell is a very good player, but Gary Trent's younger. He fits.
That's really the only thing he has.
And he fits the
He's
scheme.
younger. That's it.
It's close. But Blazers also, didn't they? It was a 2-for-1 deal, something like that.
It was a win now move for them getting
Norman Powell.
Yeah.
Which is really, they're about the same player.
I don't know.
Except
I thought
that he's younger.
different.
They're in the same
different.
tier. They're in the same tier.
Gary
He's
Trent,
a little bit bigger. That's all.
Gary Trent Jr. is a spot-up shooter. He can create occasionally, but he hoists up a lot of shots, and he has a big splash game like he did against the Knicks, or he's a volume shooter. That's what he is. He's a volume scorer.
And
Norman Powell, he's a better ball handler than Gary Trent Jr. I think his spot-up shooting, at least as of recently, has been just as good, and he's a smarter player than him offensively, I think. And defensively, I think he's better than him as well. Gary Trent Jr., I really just think he has the age. That's all I think he has on Norman Powell.
3 steals a game, though, is not something
That's actually leading the NBA.
3 steals, really?
Yeah,
I thought Jimmy was up there too, because Jimmy has just been a ball hog too. That's crazy.
Gary Trent's been really good.
But then obviously we obviously haven't seen Siakam come to play to take part in this mix either. My biggest question would be how it would impact Scotty Barnes' play, truthfully, because I feel like without Siakam, it's been allowing one other person to get more scoring opportunities. I feel like Barnes has been beneficiary of that. Once Siakam comes in, that's where I felt as if Barnes coming into the season would be more of the point forward type thing where he's facilitating the offense. Really hasn't been like that. Federico's been doing all right in that sense, truthfully. OG Anunoby has been very special with the ball in his hands. So I just think that if I'm looking at the starting lineup right now and who would take probably the biggest hit, I think it would be Barnes. But in terms of obviously who you want to develop and have as be one of the cornerstones of your squad, I'm sure they're looking at Barnes and they want him to be that guy. So I don't think it would be beneficial for them to do that. I just see it happening. But I don't think that it's a fluke. I mean, you lose this game against Cleveland, it hurts. That's a stinging loss for sure. But I think defensively, as long as you play hard every single night, like we saw with the Knicks last season, they were one of the best top 3 defensive teams in the league, and it brought them to the playoffs, and they were extremely high seed. It's not impossible that we see it again with the Raptors, given the fact that they play amazing defense night in, night out, and they're doing this without arguably their best offensive scorer.
I agree with pretty much everything you said. I mean, their strong start has kind of caught me a little bit off surprise just because the emergence of Scotty Barnes. I felt like with him, with his emergence, it just makes them more of a more competitive team, a team that if they're clicking on all cylinders, if Siakam can come back, that's maybe a team that could surprise somebody with a first-round win just because they're coached so well. But this Raptors team is a top 10 in offense. They're number 10 in offense. And then defensively, they're ranked number 5 on defense. So they get after it defensively. OG Anunoby's been excellent this year. I saw a game when he played the Knicks. He had 36 points.
Yeah, 36 is crazy.
You can just see offensively, he's gotten better. He's starting to hit the pull-up now. He attacks the basket. He's always been a good shooter, good defender. You have a rookie who's giving you about 18 and 9 a game, looking like the rookie of the year, like the Raptors fans are saying, looking really great. But, I mean, just look at this team across the board. OG's giving you 21. Fred's giving you 19 and 7. Scotty's giving you 18 and 9. Gary Trent's giving you 15 points with 3.1 steals a game, which is leading the NBA. This team is top 10 in fast break points, so they like to get after it on the break. Rebounds per game, they're a very good rebounding team. Offensive points per game, they're top 10 in that. They're top 10 in steals. They take care of the basketball. They don't turn it over. And they're top 10 in blocks because of the length that they have all over the court. Now, if you add Pascal Siakam for throughout his career has been maybe a 19, 20, 21 points per game score, I think that could only help. The only issue that I have is I agree with you. I don't know if the addition of Pascal Siakam will take away a little bit from Scotty Barnes offensively, but if Nick Nurse can somehow make them play in the same rotation together, make them get equal amount of touches, work around that barrier of a 20 points per game score is coming back. Scotty Barnes is going to take a hit offensively. I think if he can work that out, this team can be really, really good. The emergence of OG, like I said, he's been terrific on both sides of the ball. I just like this team, and with the addition of Scotty Barnes, would you guys call Toronto a young team still?
They are a young team.
They're young.
With the additions of Scotty Barnes, I think that they're one of the best young cores in the NBA. And I think they have that experience from Fred VanVleet, people who've been there, Pascal. You mix it with the young guys, I think that this team is primed to have a really good season. Hopefully they keep it up. And my prediction is don't be surprised if they get to the playoffs and somehow upset one of these. If they get to the 5 to 6 seed, don't be surprised if they can upset somebody.
They're disciplined.
It bothered me when I saw how much mean comments we got on our last top 5 rookies videos from Raptors fans saying that my co-host didn't know anything about basketball because I picked Scotty as my number 1 rookie, but y'all picked Evan Mobley, but it was a close race. And it bothered me because these are the same Raptors fans that didn't want Scotty. These are the same Raptors fans that would have taken Evan Mobley 10 times out of 10 if it's between Evan Mobley and Scotty at the time of the draft. Neither here or there. Let's talk about the Raptors. I just wanted to get that off my chest. Pascal Siakam is going to be a great addition. He averaged 21, 7, and 4 last season. And I don't think Scotty's going to take a hit. I don't. And the guy who I think is going to really take a hit.
Gary Trent?
No, it's Precious. I'm benching
that's
Precious.
obvious. That's obvious.
I'm benching Precious.
For sure. I mean, he got 18 minutes last game. It's like that's
yeah, but he's starting.
He's starting, but Siakam's gonna come in. Like that's
he
not,
averages 25 minutes per game.
No, I understand that, but he's only in that scenario or in this situation because obviously Siakam's not there.
No, he's only in that situation because he's their only center outside of Kem Birch.
For sure.
And
Boucher, who's getting no burn.
Boucher's not a center.
I understand.
He's a wing.
But,
He's a forward wing.
Precious listed as a power forward as well, and he's still getting the start.
But he's a center. You know, it's just he's undersized. If I'm the Raptors, if I'm Nick Nurse, Precious is getting benched. And Precious is getting benched because he can't shoot. He's not a good passer. He's a great energy hustle player like a Kenneth Faried. I've made that comparison dozens of times. But he gets lost on defensive rotations way too often. And I'd play Siakam at the 5. Like, why wouldn't I?
No
you
doubt.
know, he's 6'9", 6'10". He's just as tall as Precious. He offers more spacing. You still get that defensive versatility. I'd start Siakam. I'd bench Precious.
No doubt.
And I'd probably take Precious minutes all the way and give him to Kem Birch and so he can still play the amount that he plays. I think the Raptors with Siakam, before the season, I called them a play-in playoff team. I'm still there. I don't think they'll be a top 5 seed in the East. I don't think they'll be one of the best teams in the East. I do think this is a team still growing that doesn't have a true star. Like, yeah, they have Siakam as an all-star. OG is growing into an all-star caliber player, but they don't have a true star. They don't have an RJ Barrett. They don't have a Julius Randle on their team.
Level.
They don't have an RJ or Julius Randle on their team. And I know they're gonna come on here with these comments like, "Well, we beat the Knicks without Siakam and without I don't think Scotty played either."
He didn't.
But it doesn't matter. You know, Knicks played down to the competition. You should know that. Knicks played down to the competition. It's evident as of right now in the regular season. But the Raptors are a playoff team. I think they're going to make the playoffs, especially when you see teams like Atlanta still trying to figure themselves out. They're struggling right now. I told you guys it was going to happen. Teams usually struggle after that conference finals appearance, but neither here or there. I would start Fred, Trent, OG, Scotty, Siakam. The thing about Scotty is I think he won't take much of a hit because he plays within the flow of the offense. Definitely. He doesn't rely on usage to get to where to get his baskets. You know, a lot of his buckets are in transition, you know, or in a half court set. I get the ball, mid-range pull-up, or they're putbacks on the roll. He rolls a lot, and he finishes like that. So I don't think it'll affect Scotty that much. I think this team is pretty much going to be similar to what they have already been, just have that extra scoring punch and defensive versatility with Siakam now in the lineup. And first game against the Nets, that's a huge test. He's going to be on a minutes restriction, but that's going to give us a glimpse of how they're going to look. Boucher, you're right. He's not getting much minutes because he is a player that doesn't fit the Raptors. I think he's probably going to get traded soon. We'll see to where, but interesting. It's going to be interesting to see where he does go.
And we'll really see what the Raptors are made of their next 3-game stretch. They play Brooklyn, they play Boston, and they play Philly. Obviously, people are down on Boston right now, but nevertheless, that's still a challenge. They obviously just handled Miami. Brooklyn is a primetime team in the East, still obviously championship contenders as long as you have Kevin Durant on your squad. And Philadelphia is number 1 in the East as it stands right now. So if you take 2 out of the 3 of those games, people got to start looking at the Raptors like they're the real deal. Mm-hmm. If they lose all 3 of these games, obviously, without a doubt, people are going to revert right back to their ways of just completely overlooking Toronto. But they take 2 out of the 3 here. I'm really taking note of the Raptors.
Overlooking Toronto how?
I'm overlooking in terms of before the season started, not many people were high on the Raptors. But now that they've won a bunch of games, people are really starting to be interested in what the Raptors have to offer and their squad as currently constructed. And you go and you beat Brooklyn. You go and you beat the number 1 seeded Philadelphia 76ers. People really will start to say, okay, we can't sleep on the Raptors. Defensively, they're elite. Offensively, they're doing more than enough to win basketball games. And they beat 2 of the 3 primetime teams in the East. That's going to be something that gets respect for sure.